Welcome to Around the Weird. Here's your host, the museum curator of the strange and unusual, Mr. Nothing.
Thank you, mysterious voice, and welcome back to Around the Weird, a booktube channel where I talk about all the unusual and out of the ordinary literature that I found in my travels. Today it is Poetry Thursday, so I want to talk about some poetry of interest, especially poetry from Black writers, because it is Black History Month. Not that you should only talk about Black writers during Black History Month, but I am specifically focusing on them during this month. And so today's poem is all about responsibility. I am referring to We Are Not Responsible by Harryette Mullen. For those who don't know, Harryette Mullen is a Black American writer who has been getting their work published since the late 80s or early 90s. She's written a number of books of poetry, and often her poetry focuses on race, power, authority, things like that, and inequities in society. She's been called bluesy, and her work has also been called post-structuralist, which I'm not really sure what that means. This channel isn't about going that deep into poetry to sort of, pull apart those sorts of things, but it is interesting that she's, not necessarily following norms set in place from a while ago, which you find a lot with a lot of modern poets. Also, she has worked at a number of institutions, and I think she currently works for UCLA, which is interesting. We both work in the UC system, which is neat. But yeah, without further ado, let's talk about We Are Not Responsible. I will read it, do a little bit of analysis, and we will move on from there. We are not responsible. We are not responsible for your lost or stolen relatives. We cannot guarantee your safety if you disobey our instructions. We do not endorse the causes or claims of people begging for handouts. We reserve the right to refuse service to anyone. Your ticket does not guarantee that we will honor your reservations. In order to facilitate our procedures, please limit your carrying on. Before taking off, please extinguish all smoldering resentments. If you cannot understand English, you will be moved out of the way. In the event of a loss, you'd better look out for yourself. Your insurance was canceled because we can no longer handle your frightful claims. Our handlers lost your luggage, and we are unable to find the key to your legal case. You were detained for interrogation because you fit the profile. You are not presumed to be innocent if the police have reason to suspect you are carrying a concealed wallet. It's not your fault you were born wearing a gang color. It is not our obligation to inform you of your rights. Step aside, please, while our officer inspects your bad attitude. You have no rights we are bound to respect. Please remain calm or we can't be held responsible for what happens to you. In terms of analysis, that was We Are Not Responsible. There's a fair bit to talk about in this poem. I think one of the most notable things is there's no strict narrative to this poem, but it does sort of fit a pattern. It says we are not responsible. And it says, that in various ways. We are not responsible for your lost or stolen relatives. We cannot guarantee. We reserve the right to refuse service. And in order to facilitate our procedures, in the event of a loss, you better look out for yourself. You are detained for interrogation because you fit the profile, which I think is interesting. That's still talking about how they're not responsible. Like, oh, it wasn't us who, sought you out. You looked like the kind of person who would have committed a crime or is a suspect in this case. So we have to detain you. It's something you did in this situation, thereby absolving the people who would be saying that, the subjects of the poem, of responsibility there. That's often how authoritarians talk, or that's how a lot of what is happening in society has sort of become, especially in this capitalist hellscape that we live in right now, because there's a part in there where they talk about like your insurance was canceled because we can no longer handle your frightful claims, like putting the onus back on the individual. Like it was your fault for living in a place that is now being affected by climate change. It's your fault that you got into an accident. It's your fault that you got cancer and many other sort of things. Like we're not going to take on this responsibility. We're trying to make the most amount of profit for ourselves, and so you are stuck on your own. And I think the poem name is very interesting because it sort of guides our understanding from there and lets us know the many ways that people kind of shift the blame to the victims, the individuals who don't have power in this country, in this world. And there are other sections of this poem where there's a turn of phrase that sort of gets at something deeper in this poem. They say, before taking off, please extinguish all smoldering resentments. That's, it's typically like extinguish all cigarettes or something like that. But smoldering resentments, why are you specifically angry? There's something wrong with this world, the way things are in society. And they also say your insurance was canceled because we can no longer handle your frightful claims. Kind of a bit of honesty there. And then you are not presumed to be innocent if the police have reason to suspect you are carrying a concealed wallet. Kind of playing on the idea of a concealed gun or something like that, but often highlighting how the police often rob people. I believe there's like civil asset forfeiture where the police take from people. And this is something that happens a lot in, modern America, but it happens even more for people who are Black minorities in America. Kind of Harryette Mullen kind of touching upon something that a lot of minorities face, this great sense of oppression, which is widening under the Trump administration and now encompassing, pretty much everybody at this point. This is something that these minorities in America have long since dealt with, and now everyone else is experiencing it as capitalism and authoritarianism, make an effort to strangle people into submission and whatnot. So you have all of that, and then again, like there's that threat of authoritarianism in the poem. The like people aren't directly threatening you, but they're saying things which can be threatening, and it's the threat of authoritarianism, but even deeper than that, it's a sense of oppression, like of greater oppression. Again, people of color have dealt with this for years, centuries even, and like it's not simply an authoritarian who's come into power who's made this happen. This has kind of been in place forever, but by kind of calling attention to that, you can see how maybe this was always the way things were going to turn out to be. End-stage capitalism, end-stage authoritarianism for this country. Is there hope? I don't know. This poem doesn't really deal with that kind of hope, but this is not simply a mysterious situation that arose out of nowhere. This has been a long time coming. Anyway, those are my thoughts on We Are Not Responsible by Harryette Mullen. A pretty fascinating poem, and I do like some of the other stuff that Harryette Mullen has written as well. So I'm going to put a link to this poem in the description. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I would love to hear from you and have a discussion potentially. Otherwise, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so that more people can find out about this poet, this poem, or even Poetry Thursday, if they're interested in such things. And until then, I wish you the best of luck in your weird and responsibility discussing travels. Farewell.